Salahuddin Ayubi, also known in the West as Saladin, remains one of the most respected leaders in Islamic history. His name is connected with bravery, intelligence, justice, and the struggle to reclaim Jerusalem from the Crusaders. Even centuries later, both Muslims and non-Muslims remember him as a symbol of honor in warfare. Salahuddin was born in the year 1137 or 1138 in Tikrit, a town located near the Tigris River in present-day Iraq. His family was Kurdish. His father, Najmuddin Ayub, was a respected military commander, and his uncle, Shirkuh, was also a powerful soldier. From the beginning, Salahuddin grew up in an environment of discipline, politics, and military strategy. Not long after his birth, his family moved from Tikrit to Mosul and later settled in Damascus. Damascus was one of the most important cities in the Muslim world. It was a center of knowledge, trade, and politics. Salahuddin received his education there. Unlike many warriors of his time, he was not only trained in the use of weapons but also studied Islamic teachings, literature, mathematics, and leadership. As a young man, Salahuddin was not known for being overly aggressive or hungry for power. Many historians mention that he was quiet, polite, and religious. But his destiny was much greater than anyone could imagine. During this period, the Muslim world was divided. Several Muslim rulers fought each other for land and influence. Meanwhile, the Crusaders had established Christian kingdoms in Jerusalem and surrounding regions after the First Crusade. The Muslims were weak due to internal conflict, and the Crusaders took advantage of this division. The most powerful Muslim leader at that time was Nur ad-Din Zengi, the ruler of Syria. Nur ad-Din was determined to unite Muslims and fight the Crusaders. He was not only a strong commander but also a man of deep religious belief. Salahuddin eventually entered his service, along with his uncle Shirkuh. This was the turning point in Salahuddin's life. Under Nur ad-Din's rule, he began to gain military experience. He learned discipline, tactics, and political wisdom. Nur ad-Din's dream was to create a united Muslim front, and Salahuddin would later become the man who fulfilled that dream. In the year 1164, Salahuddin joined his uncle Shirkuh on a military expedition to Egypt. Egypt at that time was ruled by the Fatimid Caliphate, which followed Shia Islam, while Nur ad-Din and his followers were Sunni Muslims. Egypt was politically unstable and was under threat from the Crusaders as well. The fight for Egypt was intense. Crusaders wanted to capture Egypt because it was wealthy and strategically important. Nur ad-Din sent Shirkuh to secure Egypt before the Crusaders could take it. Salahuddin, still young, played an important role in these campaigns. After several battles and political struggles, Shirkuh finally became the vizier of Egypt. But soon after gaining this position, Shirkuh died unexpectedly in 1169. This created a power vacuum in Egypt. Many believe that Salahuddin would be ignored because of his young age. But surprisingly, Salahuddin was chosen as the new vizier. This decision shocked many people. Egypt was rich, powerful, and filled with political enemies. Salahuddin now held one of the most dangerous positions in the Muslim world. Many expected him to fail. But Salahuddin had patience, intelligence, and vision. Slowly, he began strengthening his control. He gained the loyalty of the Egyptian army. He also improved the economy and government system. Step by step, he built a stable foundation for his future empire. This was only the beginning of his journey. After becoming the vizier of Egypt, Salahuddin faced one major challenge. The Fatimid Caliphate still existed. The Fatimid rulers were weak, but their supporters were still powerful. Many Egyptians did not trust Salahuddin because he was Sunni and also a foreigner. However, Salahuddin understood that real power is not gained through violence alone. He focused on strategy. He acted with respect, but he also ensured that the army and key leaders were loyal to him. At the same time, the Crusaders continued threatening Egypt. They knew Egypt was the heart of Muslim wealth. If they captured it, they could destroy Muslim resistance completely. In 1169, the Crusaders attacked Egypt. Salahuddin defended the region strongly. His military leadership surprised both enemies and allies. His ability to remain calm under pressure made him different from other commanders. Over time, Salahuddin began reducing the influence of the Fatimid government. He removed corrupt officials and replaced them with loyal Sunni administrators. He promoted Sunni Islamic education, building madrasas and encouraging scholars to teach in Egypt. The most important moment came in 1171 when the Fatimid Caliph died. Salahuddin took this opportunity to officially end the Fatimid Caliphate. He declared loyalty to the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, restoring Sunni authority in Egypt. This was a major historical event. Egypt had been under Fatimid Shia rule for more than 200 years. By ending it, Salahuddin united Egypt with the Sunni Muslim world again. It also strengthened his position greatly. Now Salahuddin was no longer just a vizier. He had become the real ruler of Egypt. But his power also created tension. Nur ad-Din, his former leader in Syria, became suspicious. He feared that Salahuddin might become independent and challenge him. The relationship between the two leaders became complicated. Salahuddin acted carefully. He continued showing respect to Nur ad-Din and did not openly rebel. But in reality, he was building his own strength. In 1174, Nur ad-Din died unexpectedly. This changed everything. After Nur ad-Din's death, Syria was left divided. His son was too young to rule properly. Many commanders began fighting for control. Salahuddin realized this was a rare opportunity. He marched into Damascus and entered peacefully. The people welcomed him because they respected his reputation and feared civil war. Soon, Salahuddin began uniting Syria under his leadership. One by one, he brought major cities under his control, including Homs, Hama, Aleppo, and other territories. Some surrendered peacefully, while others resisted and were defeated. This was not just conquest. Salahuddin's goal was unity. He believed Muslims could never defeat the Crusaders if they remained divided. During this period, he officially founded the Ayyubid dynasty, named after his father Ayub. This dynasty would rule Egypt, Syria, and surrounding regions for decades. Salahuddin now controlled one of the most powerful Muslim empires of the time. But he did not use this power for luxury. Historians describe him as simple and humble. He lived with discipline, avoided unnecessary wealth, and spent most of his time planning campaigns or strengthening governance. His next mission was clear: reclaim Jerusalem. Jerusalem was not just a city. It was sacred to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. For Muslims, it was the land of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the first Qibla, and the place of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, Isra and Mi'raj. Since 1099, Jerusalem had been under Crusader control. The Crusaders had massacred thousands of Muslims when they captured it. For almost 90 years, Muslims dreamed of taking it back. Now Salahuddin was preparing to make that dream a reality. After uniting Egypt and Syria, Salahuddin became the most powerful Muslim leader in the region. But he still faced one major problem. The Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem was strong and protected by castles, knights, and alliances with European powers. Salahuddin understood that defeating the Crusaders required more than bravery. It required patience, planning, and timing. Instead of rushing into battle, he began weakening Crusader strength slowly. He attacked their supply lines, raided their forts, and reduced their ability to travel safely. His goal was to isolate them. The Crusader forces were not united either. They had internal rivalries. Some leaders wanted peace, while others wanted war. One of the most dangerous Crusader figures was Reynold of Chatillon. Reynold was known for cruelty and aggression. He attacked Muslim trade caravans even during peace treaties. He also threatened to attack the holy cities of Makkah and Medina by planning raids through the Red Sea. These actions enraged the Muslim world. Salahuddin saw Reynold as a symbol of Crusader betrayal. He swore an oath that if he ever captured Reynold, he would personally punish him. In 1187, Reynold once again attacked a Muslim caravan, breaking the peace agreement. This gave Salahuddin the justification he needed. He called for jihad, uniting Muslim armies from different regions. Salahuddin's forces marched toward the Crusaders with massive strength. The Crusader king at that time, Guy of Lusignan, gathered his army to confront Salahuddin. They marched out from Jerusalem to meet him. Salahuddin used the land itself as a weapon. He understood the environment better than the Crusaders. He allowed them to march into hot, dry territory, cutting off their access to water. The Crusader army suffered badly from thirst and exhaustion. Salahuddin's soldiers attacked them constantly, forcing them to continue marching without rest. This led to the famous Battle of Hattin, one of the most important battles in medieval history. The battle took place near the Horns of Hattin, a hill formation close to the Sea of Galilee. Salahuddin surrounded the Crusader forces. His army controlled the water sources. The Crusaders were trapped. The heat was unbearable. Salahuddin ordered dry grass to be burned, sending smoke toward the Crusaders. Their suffering increased as their horses collapsed. Their morale shattered when the final attack came. The Crusader army was crushed. Thousands of Crusader knights were killed or captured. Their holy relic, the True Cross, was captured as well. This was a devastating loss for the Crusaders. King Guy was captured. Many nobles were taken prisoner. And most importantly, Reinald of Chatillon was captured alive. Salahuddin treated King Guy with respect. He offered him water, showing mercy. But when Reinald was brought forward, Salahuddin reminded him of his crimes. Reinald tried to defend himself, but Salahuddin's anger was justified. Salahuddin personally executed Reinald, fulfilling his oath. But he did not massacre the other prisoners. Instead, he treated them according to Islamic rules of war. Many were spared. Many were later ransomed. The Battle of Hattin opened the gates of Palestine. The Crusaders had lost their main army. Their castles and cities were now vulnerable. After this victory, Salahuddin captured many Crusader towns quickly. Acre, Nablus, Jaffa, Beirut, one after another, they fell. Finally, the greatest prize was within reach. Jerusalem, the city that had been lost for nearly 90 years, was now surrounded by Salahuddin's army. The world waited to see what would happen next. In September 1187, Salahuddin's army arrived at the walls of Jerusalem. The Crusaders inside the city were terrified. They knew they did not have enough soldiers to resist for long. Jerusalem was defended by Balian of Ibelin, a nobleman who had originally asked Salahuddin for safe passage to take his family out of the city. Salahuddin allowed it, but once Balian entered Jerusalem, the people begged him to stay and defend them. Balian broke his promise and prepared the city for defense. When Salahuddin heard this, he was angry at first, but he remained calm. He understood that war required decisions, and he respected Balian's courage. The siege of Jerusalem began. Salahuddin's forces attacked the walls with catapults and siege weapons. The Crusaders fought desperately, but they were weak. After several days, it became clear that Jerusalem could not survive a long siege. The city was running out of resources, and the defenders were losing hope. Balian approached Salahuddin for negotiations. Balian feared a massacre. He reminded Salahuddin of what the Crusaders had done when they captured Jerusalem in 1099. That year, Crusader soldiers slaughtered Muslims and Jews in massive numbers. Blood reportedly filled the streets. Balian warned Salahuddin that if negotiations failed, the defenders would destroy holy places and kill their own prisoners before dying in battle. Salahuddin listened. Now history reached its greatest moment. Salahuddin had the power to take revenge. He could have ordered a massacre, and justified it as revenge for the bloodshed of 1099. But Salahuddin was not driven by hatred, he chose mercy. He agreed to allow the Christians to leave peacefully in exchange for ransom payments. Those who could pay were allowed to leave safely. Those who could not pay were also helped. Many were freed without payment. Salahuddin ensured that women, children, and elderly people were protected. He did not allow looting. He did not allow his soldiers to commit crimes. When Jerusalem finally surrendered on the 2nd of October 1187, Salahuddin entered the city with dignity, not arrogance. He ordered the cleansing of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which had been used by the Crusaders as a stable and military base. that was purified and restored for prayer. The Islamic call to prayer, the adhan, was heard again in Jerusalem after nearly a century. Instead of destroying churches, Salahuddin protected them. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of the most sacred Christian sites, was guarded and respected. This decision shocked Europe. Even Salahuddin's enemies admired his behavior. Western historians later described him as noble, fair, and honorable. He became a symbol of chivalry, even in Christian writings. But the liberation of Jerusalem was not the end of the conflict. Europe was furious that the loss of Jerusalem was a disaster for the Crusader world. Soon, news reached European kings, including Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. This would lead to the Third Crusade, and Salahuddin would now face his most famous opponent, Richard the Lionheart. The liberation of Jerusalem shook Europe. The Pope called for a new crusade, and thousands of soldiers gathered for what became known as the Third Crusade. The most famous Crusader leader was Richard I of England, known as Richard the Lionheart. He was a skilled warrior, fearless in battle, and respected by his men. Many believed Richard could defeat Salahuddin. In 1191, the Crusaders arrived in the region and captured the city of Acre after a long siege. The loss of Acre was a setback for Salahuddin, but what happened next was brutal. Richard ordered the killing of thousands of Muslim prisoners outside Acre, claiming he could not manage them. This massacre angered Salahuddin deeply, yet Salahuddin remained focused on the larger war. Richard marched south toward Jaffa, hoping to reach Jerusalem. Salahuddin followed, attacking and weakening Crusader forces along the way. One of the most important battles was the Battle of Arsuf in 1191. Richard managed to defeat Salahuddin's army there, showing that the Crusaders were still powerful. But even after this defeat, Salahuddin did not collapse. He reorganized his forces, strengthened defenses, and continued using strategy rather than emotional warfare. Both leaders realized something important. Neither could fully destroy the other. Richard wanted Jerusalem, but he faced major problems. His army was far from home, supplies were limited, and internal politics threatened him. Even if he captured Jerusalem, holding it would be nearly impossible. Salahuddin, on the other hand, understood that defending Jerusalem required long-term stability. He was fighting not just an army, but an entire European movement. During this time, many stories of respect between Richard and Salahuddin were recorded. When Richard fell ill, Salahuddin reportedly sent him medicine and fruits. When Richard's horse was killed in battle, Salahuddin sent him a new horse. Even if some of these stories were exaggerated later, they reflect a real truth. Salahuddin's character left a strong impression even on his enemies. In 1192, after years of war, both sides agreed to a peace treaty called the Treaty of Ramla. Under this treaty, Jerusalem remained under Muslim control. Christians were allowed to visit the Holy City peacefully. The Crusaders kept control of some coastal cities. The Third Crusade ended without Jerusalem being recaptured by Europe. Salahuddin had achieved his greatest mission, but his health was declining. Years of constant war and responsibility had exhausted him. In March 1193, Salahuddin Ayubi died in Damascus. When he died, people discovered something surprising. Despite ruling a vast empire, Salahuddin left behind almost no wealth. His personal money was so little that it was not enough even for a grand funeral. Most of what he earned had been spent on soldiers, charity, and public service. This was the true sign of his character. Salahuddin was buried in Damascus, near the Umayyad Mosque. His tomb still exists today and remains a place of respect. His legacy continues to live in history. To Muslims, Salahuddin is remembered as the liberator of Jerusalem and the defender of Islam. To many non-Muslims, he is remembered as one of the rare leaders who fought with honor and mercy. He proved that true strength is not only in the sword, but also in justice, patience, and humanity. Salahuddin Ayubi's name remains immortal, not because he conquered lands, but because he conquered hearts.